All right. What is title insurance? Title insurance conveys the rights of ownership to the property. So the importance of title insurance is to know that owner's policy protects a buyer and their heirs for as long as they own the home from the current owner backwards, versus a homeowner's policy, fire insurance, protects them from current forward. And ours also, we have lender's policies that protect the lender's financial interest in the property. So that's the boring part of it. Who pays for title insurance? As you most of you would know, on the contract section 3C 129 on page 3, seller is to provide buyer homeowner's policy. So typically the seller pays for it. We have had on occasion where they've for sale by owner an addendum where they have the buyer pay for it, but typically per the contract the seller does. And they do this to prove, that the buyer that they are making a purchase with a clear title. The buyer will pay for their lender's policy. So a lot of times people ask me, who's going to pay for the ALTA policy? ALTA just means America Land Title Association. So which policy? Owner's policy is typically paid by the sellers for the contract. Lender's policy is for the buyer's lender. So typically the buyer pays for the buyer policy. Title search. All right, so what's searched on title? This gives you kind of a quick overview. We search public records, looking for, any through deeds, clerks of court, other official records, title plants. And what we're searching for is to make sure there's no judgments, liens, city assessments, taxes, basically anything that will affect the title from us providing the buyer a clear title by the time of closing. And next. So 1 out of 3 transactions has issues with title. A lot of times you don't see the issues that we found and fixed prior to releasing the title report. Sometimes you're involved in some of the issues that we have to clear, and sometimes they come up later, which is what they have a title policy for. I have an example, actually, probably 10 years ago, I closed a transaction and the customers called me later and said that the neighbor told them that their property, their shed was a couple of inches over their property line. So those people had to submit a title policy claim. They called me back just to fill me in because I don't see after, what happens after they make a claim, but it ended up being this was a problem in the whole neighborhood. So every property, 10 properties had to make a claim to their title company and get these fixed. But that, and I believe the subdivision was over 30 years old. So this is something that was huge for them, because who would have thought? It's been through multiple transactions, all of those homes. And here we are with this problem that arose, and they were all taken care of, I would assume. I didn't see the end of it, but so you never know what can come up. So when we are searching for title, these are hazards that you're hopefully going to avoid below: the forgeries, liens, easements, right away, life estates. You don't know if I think in here, a claim by previous undisclosed relative. So when we're asking for a trust, if somebody dies, we need to make sure we're doing our due diligence to make sure that there's no other heirs out there that are, have an interest in this property. So a lot of people get frustrated. Why do you need the whole trust? Well, if somebody passed away, we need to make sure that we're following the trust. And then there's different types of policies. So for the title insurance policy, this is kind of a little cheat sheet that I've always had, and I can send this to you guys. Is everybody going to get a copy of all this, Lindsay?
Yeah, we can send out some of the handouts with the little cheat sheets, and we're gonna, Mara, we are gonna just send the even just the slides out so everybody can look them over. They need to.
Yeah,
perfect. Yeah, that'd be great because I can upload them in with the recording.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay.
And there's a lot of cheat sheets in here, especially with title, that are going to be helpful, especially this one. I've had this for all my life in escrow. So this is a good cheat sheet to tell you what is the difference between a title policy. What does my title policy cover? In the contract, it calls seller to provide the buyer a homeowner's policy, which is the very end one. So as you can see, they're getting the best policy with the most coverage. Typically in Alta Standard, the very first one, that's typically for commercial and vacant land. And extended is typically with commercial, but a survey is required. So if you do have commercial properties and you want an extended, just know that you're going to have a survey that's going to be required, and we don't provide that, of course. They'd have to hire a survey company. Alta residential, that one we would do if it's not a homeowner. Typically, that's the one that we fall back on. Like if it's an investment property, we would use that one. Homeowners is the most common though, and that's the one on the end. And I like that it shows you everything that it that it covers. So I've handed this out to a lot of people, including buyers and sellers. It's very helpful. Lender's policy, we have one for a lender's policy, which really you probably never really need to know for the most part. Lindsay, can you flip to the next one, ma'am? There we go. That just shows you the different type of lenders policies we have. I do have attorneys, like if you work with any investors or attorneys and they are buying maybe foreclosure properties, we have the trustee sale guarantees. Those are helpful. But other than that, I don't think you would really use this much as agents. But I wanted to include it so you had the different coverages. The next slide just kind of just a quick snapshot showing you the difference between title insurance and homeowners insurance. So title insurance protects the title, homeowners insurance protects the home and the contents. The risk, we eliminate risk. We cover what did happen. Home insurance covers what may happen. And then of course, title insurance is a one-time fee, where home insurance you pay every month or quarter or annually. The next slide will show you how to read a prelim, and there's a couple more after this that go over this more in detail because this is a little bit small and hard to read. But on the very beginning, we have how to read a title report. So a title, what is a title commitment? This document, it's basically a map for us. It's like our Bible as an escrow officer. It tells me what's going on with the property on Exhibit A, or Schedule A, sorry. Who the lender is, who the owner is, who the buyer is going to be, sales price and all that information. There we go. Thank you. Amount, states, insured name, type of estate to be insured, vesting and description. So that's all going to be on your Schedule A. That's pretty much the information page. And then on Schedule B, you're going to have two parts. We have part one that will tell you all the requirements. This is our Bible. This is, as an escrow officer, this tells me everything that I need to clear and fix or get or record before we can close the transaction to provide a clear title. So, and then Schedule B is everything, the exceptions, what we will not, I'm sorry, Schedule B part 2 is the exceptions. Those are the things that will be unincluded in the policy. So for Schedule A, the screen you're seeing right now, that's the requirements page. This is the most important for most everybody, because these are the items that we need to clear before we can close. So items 1 through 4, those are standard. You're going to see those pretty much on every single requirements page with most title companies that I've been at. 5 is an example of a UCC, I'm sorry, deed of trust. So that's your mortgage. You may see 1 or 2. If you get a title report and you see 3 or 4 of those, you might want to question you might want to question it. So when I send a title report, I'll tell you, hey, we have, 3 mortgages we're trying to clear or waiting on information. I'll tell you what's on there, what we're needing, what we're looking for, what we've asked for. I just actually sent this one out last week, and the agent, I told them, okay, we have requested the payoff information. We've also requested a termination because there's a UCC on here for a water softener company or water softener system. The agent's like, I don't know what that is. What are you talking about? That shouldn't be on there. Take it off. Well, we can't just take it off. These are things that are public record. We have to clear them. So what this means is there's a UCC for the water system on there. The water system company recorded a lien to secure their equipment. Well, I guess the seller did pay it off or just recently paid it off. So it's simple. We just need them to record a release because their lien is still on the property and we can't transfer that with the buyer, to give them a clear title. So we ended up getting it, but a lot of times your sellers are not going to know. They don't know if there's a solar UCC lien on there. They don't know if there's a water softener lien. They don't understand what it means when they tell them they're going to record it. So if you get this, don't panic. You know, we get through it, but these do come up and we do need a termination for them. So you probably also have seen in the past, possibly if unless you're brand new, solar transfer, where the buyer is going to assume the current solar on the system. And I would imagine they could do that for the water system as well. This will still need to come off. This is a termination, or this is a UCC lien against the current owner. So when you have a solar, the new buyer would have to qualify with the solar company, get it transferred in their name, or at least get the transfer paperwork completed and the lease agreement. Then the solar company will give us a lien release for the termination for the current owner. They will go on the back end after we record a new lien for the new buyer. But this still has to be cleared. So if you see the UCC on the title report, that is something you want to question if it's not already brought up, because it does need to be cleared. And then you have marital status for the buyer, which we always need that. I hate that they took that off the contract years when I first started, and I hate dating myself, but back in the 90s, they had marital status on the contracts and they took it off. So since Arizona is a community property state, we do have to know if the buyer is married, and if they are, even if their spouse will not be entitled, then they will have to sign a disclaimer deed, because they either have to be on the title or they have to sign off their equity. And then you have your record the deed of trust is your typical recording documents. So, and there is one more page that I did not include, but it just goes over the taxes. So this one, the taxes were paid in full for 2023. But if they weren't, there would be another requirement on there that we have to pay the taxes. So if you're looking at one of these, when you get your title report and you see something weird or something that's not typical, definitely reach out to your escrow officer. Like I said, you can always ask me. You can send me a snapshot and say, hey, I can't reach somebody. I just have a question. What is this? Because there's been some weird stuff on here. When you get into probates and other stuff, you're going to have a lot of requirements. I've had 4 pages of requirements on some. Then you also have, so that's Schedule B Part 1. You have Schedule B Part 2. That's this, I'm sorry. Let me just get back. This is just a sample of the UCC, what it actually looks like on the last requirements page. But after you get through the requirements, you'll go to Part 2, which we don't have a slide for. That's just the exception. So that's just going to tell you what's not going to be included. So if there's, say, I don't know, I think I had one time a lien, a UCC lien that the lender didn't care about. They were okay with to leave it on there. They didn't want to do anything about it. So we left it on there, but it's an exception. That means it will not be covered in the policy. So if they were to come back later and say, no, we wanted this cleared, or they're saying it's a lien on the property now, you guys all agreed to it. So it was an exception. So anything on Part 2 is an exception. You do want to look at that and make sure that there's nothing on there that should be covered. Okay, so this is title verification. So this is along the lines what I was telling you about buyer's marital status. This goes out in our opening pallet package. We ask the buyers how they're going to hold title, because a lot of times buyers don't understand. I can't tell you how many times, even today, I get a contract and it has just one name on it. And I've been asking over and over again for spousal information or marital status. In the end, they'll tell me, oh yeah, I am married. My wife's in Germany. Okay, that's a huge problem, because the wife's not going to be on any of the paperwork, but she still has to sign a disclaimer deed. So it's very important to get the marital status to your title company when you're meeting with your buyers. If you can send that with the contract, even, you know, here's a new contract, buyers are married, you know, the wife will not be on title, here's her name, you know, for the disclaimer deed. Or the other option is they can both be on title. Say the wife can't qualify, they just are using the husband's, she can be a non-borrowing spouse. So if the lender will agree to put them both on the deed of trust, they can both be on the contract and the deed. But something to know is The buyer's names have to read exactly the same on the contract, the title report, the warranty deed, and the deed of trust. They must always match. There's no exception. So if the wife's gonna be on the deed of trust, then she has to be on the contract and the deed. If the wife is gonna be on the deed, she also has to be on the deed of trust. It can't be any other way. If for some reason the lender can't do a non-borrowing spouse, then you can always, she can be added later. I can do a courtesy deed later for them, but not all escrow officers will do that. So there's something to keep in mind when you're talking to your buyers. Make sure that you're verifying their marital status and you're talking to them about, you know, if they have a spouse, how are they handling that if they're not going to be on the contract? And make sure that they're all going to be in town or available to sign, including the spouse that's not going to be entitled. Hopefully that all makes sense.
Hey,
Different-
Ann, can you say that again, those four again,
Yes,
please?
your contract, title report, warranty deed, and deed of trust. So if a lot of times they'll put somebody on the contract and tell me they're not going to be on the loan, that's not a problem. As long as they're still going to list that non-borrowing spouse on their deed of trust, we're still good. But it comes down to the fact when we get the docs and the spouse is not on the deed of trust, we got to go back and fix everything. So something definitely communicate with your buyers and your lenders and upfront, because we don't want problems later. It's easier to clear it up in the beginning. And then this one just shows you the differences, because a lot of people are like, well, how do I know how I should hold title? We don't want to advise them as agents and escrow. We don't want to advise them how to plan their family's estate. But this is a nice cheat sheet that gives them the differences. So community property right of survivorship, I would tell everybody, you know, if they're asking me what my opinion is, I can tell you what I would do. I'm a married person, so I would do community property with right of survivorship, because that's got the best tax benefit for married couples. If one of the spouses passes. But that would be more questions for their CPA. What kind of benefits? I don't know. Even if I did, I wouldn't tell you. So, and we also don't want to advise them how to take title. Just refer them to one of these, you know, or an escrow officer who can provide them the differences so they can decide, or talk it over with their family planner. So community property with right of survivorship, married couples, joint tenants with right of survivorship, non-married couples. This is for maybe like a father and son, or brother and sister. The survivorship gives them the peace of mind that if they pass away, if one of them pass away, the rest of the estate automatically goes to the survivors. So you do not have to do probate with a survivorship deed. It automatically reverts to the rest of the people on there. Where tenants in common, which is the next one, that one you would have to probate. So and you would also have to specify your percentages. I do have a certain amount of people that do those. And if something happens to one of them, they have to probate the percentage of that person. So it becomes kind of a nightmare. But in your situation, you know, you may have two families that want their percentage to go to their family if they pass, and they want to make sure that happens. Would be a good way to do that. If you do sole and separate, again, if that's married as individuals, we're still going to need a disclaimer deed from the person who's not going to be on title. So either way, if they're married, they're both going to have to sign and notarize a deed. If they're single, that means they've never been married. If they're unmarried, they've been married before and they're just not married now. You also have trust and corporations, LLCs, etc. Next page. Okay, this kind of gives you a little synopsis of a trust. So with a trust, a lot of times, like I was telling you earlier, if somebody passes away, a lot of sellers are not happy when we ask for the full trust. They're like, you know, it's a whole binder, right? Yep, I sure do. But unfortunately, we have to make sure that there's no errors in there, no specifications of who is going to take over when the people pass. We need to go through all of that and make sure that we are titling it correctly. So we do need a full copy. We can have it scanned. I've actually gone and picked them up from elderly ladies who are like, I don't know how to get this to you. I mean, we, on our end as Pioneer Title, we will help any way we can. if both trustees are still alive, we typically will not ask for the full trust. We will just have them sign a trust cert saying nothing's changed. So it just depends on the status of the trustees, the original trustees. Something else to keep in mind, if you're representing a seller of a trust, make sure that you go over with them that the proceeds are always payable to who holds title. If a trust holds title, the proceeds are going to be payable to the trust. So make sure that they have a bank account or a way to cash those funds, because we get to the end, and the same as with an LLC or corporation. The funds are payable to who holds title. So just reiterate to them, make sure that they have a way to cash those funds. Do they have a bank account that's linked with the trust or the LLC? Because at the end, then they're like, wait a minute, nobody told me any of this. So it's good to start from their realtor, and then for us to reiterate it when we get to them with our proceeds form, which at our company, our proceeds form goes out with our opening package to the seller. That way they have time to get a bank account or, do whatever they need to plan for this in any situation. And also to verify their wiring information and whatnot. For LLCs and businesses, next slide. This gives you an idea of what we're looking for when you have a corporation, a partnership, limited partnership, general partnership, LLC. Mostly we need to verify who the authorized signer is. So that's usually an operating agreement that'll state, authorized signer is John Smith. Because we can pull up the corporate docs on the Arizona Corporate Commission website or whatever state they're at. It tells us the articles, which we can all access, but it doesn't tell us who the authorized signer is. So a lot of times when I ask for corporate docs, I'll get a response that says they're online. You can get them on Arizona Corporate Commission website. I've already got those. That doesn't tell me who the authorized signer is. Usually they do not put the operating agreement on there. And a lot of times LLCs don't have an operating agreement. So in that case, we will just do a LLC affidavit that the members will sign stating who the authorized signer will be. So we can fix it. But this kind of gives you a little idea of what is needed so you can prepare your sellers if they're an LLC, a corporation, or any of these. And next. Okay, so this recently came up in my title class I just did last week, and I thought it was kind of interesting because I have not seen this yet. There's a new rule, I guess, or statute that states if a couple gets divorced and they did have property in the right of survivorship, when you get divorced, it will sever the right of survivorship and it will put it into tenants in common. So just a little piece of information that I got that I wanted to share because I thought that was interesting. And last, I've had people ask me what's the difference between a special warranty deed and a general warranty deed. This shows you a general warranty deed is what we typically use. A special warranty deed, I've seen a lot of companies use, like an LLC or a corporation. But typically a general warranty deed is what we use. And that's all I got for this one. Any questions?
Yes, I have a question. When we talk about the encroachment, when the title finds out that there's an encroachment, and you said something about 10 years that somebody processed a claim,
Yeah.
isn't there something, I don't know what it's, eminent domain or whatever it is, as far as after a certain time, can't that person that is encroaching claim that property?
That's a good question.
I think it's like after 10 years, if nothing's done about it, they can say, oh, that's mine now.
I think they probably could, but I don't see that. I didn't see that part of it. That's why I said I don't know what ended up happening. I know that they all put in claims, but I don't know what ended up happening.
I mean,
The
if
one
they
neighbor,
want,
the one neighbor wanted the shed off. I don't know. I guess they were doing something. But that's a good question. I'm going to ask, and I will get an answer for you because that's a good
thank
question.
you. Yeah. I can't remember what it's called, but
I've heard
heard
that
that.
too. Yeah, I've heard of that too. Let me find out. I by no means I'm not a title expert. I'm an escrow officer, but what I share with you guys is what I see on my end as an escrow officer, as far as title and things that will help you represent your customers better, because I see what frustrations they have with escrow companies, title companies, realtors, lenders. I hear a lot on my end, so I like to share what I hear. That way we can all be better. Any other questions?
Yeah, yeah.
Are you guys able to share some stuff that's different from like northern Arizona properties versus down here? Any title issues or anything that you see funky?
In I do a lot. I have a couple of realtors that I work with in Show Low and Payson, and they have more just not really more title issues. They just have more septic and wells. You know, you'll see wells sometimes pop up. Something for up north to keep in mind is if you do have properties with wells, you make sure that you find out if they're on the property or not. If they are on the property, you have to track down the well number. We're going to need that because we have to transfer the well. If there's no well on the
Yeah.
property, then we don't have to transfer it. But no, I think we see a lot more estate issues
Mm.
because there's a lot more elderly people that own property up north. Something huge with probate, like if you have a property with probates and you have personal rep letters, keep in mind they have to be dated within 60 days of the closing. I see that a lot up north. But I don't think nothing else other than that, nothing crazy.
Have you
Although
seen
I've
any
seen-
land subdivided or anything up there? Any issues or as they're building or?
No, the only thing we have with land, with big land being subdivided, you have to deal with the taxes. You have, sometimes you'll get a lien, you know, a deed of trust like we would with a builder where you have a deed of trust encumbering more than one property, so we'll have to get a partial release. But no, nothing that I've seen recently.
Do you guys have any questions? You guys are quiet.
I know.
Yeah, I have a question now here. In AJ, there's a lot of 1.25 properties, and it's kind of crazy on where the boundaries are. Can we call title company to kind of get a parameter as far as where the lines are as far as the property? Is that something
would-
title would do?
No, that's more of a survey. I think you're thinking of, the survey is something that's one thing that we don't do or have anything to do with. The only thing we could provide, so title provides anything a public record mostly. So we could provide you a plat map showing you the lines
Yeah,
or an assessor's map, but other than that, no, that you would have to go, if you wanted something more definitive, you're looking for a survey probably.
right. But you have like an assessor's
Yeah, if you ever need a plat map on a property, I can send that
Plat
to you. It tells you the lot,
I think that's what I'm meaning.
Yeah. Just, you can just email or text me an address, say, hey, can you give me a plat map for this? And I'll get it over.
Okay,
to you.
cool. Yep.
Anybody else?
I'm trying to think of things that I've personally ran into and Lisa, I think I had one with a seller where their two wives, one they're on the deed for the mortgage, but not the title. There's only one name for the title, and I'm like, well, they're legally married, and you know, it's having to do some leg work, and then title helped with, hey, this is how we see it. We've got to drop an addendum. Here's some verbiage, or you know, that kind of situation. I'm wondering if, you know, we'll probably run into that a little more.
Yeah. We had to remove the one from the contract because
Mhm.
she isn't on the tax record like title, but she was on the
deed.
lender something or other. It was interesting.
Yeah,
That's
I
weird
went in-
because
I know.
usually I've actually had one where there was two people on the deed of trust and not the deed. And I was told, this is a different company I was at, so I don't know how accurate it is. Now I want to check, but they said that the second person, because they were on the deed of trust, actually provided them an equity in the title. So we had to get a deed signed by that person too, because they were added to the deed of trust somehow after. Technically, they shouldn't add them to a deed of trust unless they update the deed as well. They always should match.
That's what I thought.
Interesting.
Mm,
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, seriously, if you could find out, that would be good.
Yeah. But
Because
if they had you remove that person from the contract, that means they were doing it the opposite of what I'm thinking.
I know, but we definitely want to know, same sex marriages, and also if it's a husband, wife, and one person is not on the title, but they're on the mortgage, or the house gets refinanced, right? And now you're adding that one person to the mortgage now, but they never fixed
The deed.
title, right?
Yeah.
So how do you, I just went ahead and added both people to the paperwork to be safe, but
Right. Which that's what
I
I
was
would do
wrong.
too. Yeah.
yeah.
But sometimes I think that may happen when the lenders don't go through title to get the loan. Like there's some that they don't need title insurance, or they have their own little funky,
Huh.
title company. Because technically when you do a refinance and you add somebody, we have to do the new deed as well.
So
That's
I'm
probably-
pretty sure they used Rocket Mortgage, so I don't know much about them.
Yeah,
I don't know what they do, but and maybe they screwed up.
it could be. Yeah. If they didn't get a title report or didn't go through title and just recorded a new deed of trust, they may not have checked,
Mm-hmm.
but they should be.
Which I always thought, even if you were married and you're not on the mortgage, you still have rights to the equity.
You
know?
do that. You do.
Yeah.
That's why we have to have a disclaimer deed. So that's what I was saying earlier. If you're married, you either
Yeah.
have to be on the deed or you have to sign off. Either way, you got to sign.
Uh-huh.
But sometimes people miss it. I've seen where, other title companies or the lenders did a loan without title and they didn't catch it. So sometimes there's cleanup.
Which, if you're representing a cash buyer, you really want to make sure you're getting that accurate then, because there
Yeah.
is no mortgage insurance, all of that stuff following. Yeah, I'm not in title. I don't want to be in title, and I'm not a lender, and just want you guys to be able to do your thing.
Yeah. And that's
And I
what
don't want to remember any of it either.
I know. Sometimes I don't either. But if you guys have any questions that come up ever, you can always reach out. If I don't claim to know everything. I've been in the business over 30 some years. I definitely don't know everything. That's what I love about this business. I'm learning new every day. There's always something to learn. If I don't know the answer, I know who to ask. So definitely reach out if I can help with anything.
I think that's at the end of the day, right? I hope that what we get across, like, because we have such a large company too and such a large footprint, there is things that she may not know, but she can definitely get an answer to. Like
Mhm.
I don't think there's anything that we can't figure out as a company with the amount of expertise and experience, including Anne. So I say at the end of the day, the best thing is to build that good relationship with your escrow officer so that these things as they come up, it's just a phone call away, and then she figures out her end of it. So you can figure out your end of it. And in a timely manner, because at the end of the day, the clients don't know the difference between you and her, but they put everything on you. And we know that. Like we know that when it gets handed over to Anne, it doesn't matter if you refer to Anne or not. It all goes back on you. So it's just really important that, and that's, that's why we have two separate jobs. Like I'm not the one that pays attention to all of that, but Anne's really good about that and very good at getting back to you quickly. So I think at the end of the day, that's the biggest thing too, is just don't ever hesitate. She's so open, even if it's not her transaction or it's gonna go, like she's still willing to, we're all willing to, figure that out. And I know, like Mara, you asked a question about builders and subdividing. Premier has a builder services division. So like you might have a builder and we might want to, go in together so we can offer some of that stuff. Or, you might have investors that have wonky stuff. Like, we have all of that. So I hope that you guys will just know that at the end of the day, you can reach out to Anne and she'll be able to figure it out. I was gonna say 9 times out of 10, but I'm pretty sure almost every time we'll get it figured out, whatever it is, and you can do your job and rest assured that she's doing her job. So I think
we
that's
just want to make you guys look like top notch in front of your clients, and whatever we can do to help with that. What Lindsay was saying about builders, we definitely do builders. my husband's actually a builder and he's starting his spec homes, and what a nightmare going through getting all the indemnities, but I know what he needs, or I know what's gonna be needed, so I'm making him do them in advance.
Hey,
But-
Ann, I know
yeah.
a good brokerage that can sell them for him.
Do you do Tucson though?
Yeah, we do. We have agents
serious?
down there. I'm dead serious.
Oh, yes, actually, I have been
Serious.
looking for, trying to decide what realtor, he's breaking ground this week, so.
Yeah, we've got all the CRM, all the marketing stuff, and I
You
I
guys
know a
heard it
great
here
title
first.
company. Yeah,
Oh my gosh, all right, I'm gonna be reaching out to you then, Mara.
please, yeah. We'll hook you up.
All right, awesome.
Yeah, good for you.
Hey, Mara,
Wait.
did you just talk about putting that out in the universe?
We did talk about, I was getting ready to email you. Sorry, agents, like off topic, but yeah, I'm putting stuff out there and things are happening. The more you put it out there and you're like, I want this to happen,
Yeah,
it's good vibes. So
I'm glad I said something.
yeah, I am too, actually. It's very hard to find a builder that does one houses that doesn't have a realtor, even if we get to sit open houses, right? Or
Yeah.
like go down, like I would drive down there just to represent, right? Like
Well,
why not?
I have two agents out that way. One's in Casa Grande and one's in Tucson, but they're like,
We do too,
but
yeah.
it's Vail, so it's like I guess they pick Vail because it's the best school district in Tucson, in this area out
Cool.
there. So nobody wants to drive out there. They're like, oh, but then I'd have to drive out there. I'm like,
I will. I'm driving up to Payson for a listing next week.
I know, I'm like, but this is one out of
Client.
multiple. They've got,
Exactly. You have to look at the future.
yeah. I'm like, they've
And-
got 2 lots, and then they're gonna buy 2
Yeah.
more, and it's gonna roll from
Well,
here.
and that's when you want to do the marketing is
Yeah.
go out and do the construction videos and photos and then
Yeah.
help them pick oh, that stuff gets us excited.
Oh,
So
sweet. I'm gonna reach out to you then.
yeah, thank you.
Definitely.
Cool. We'll cut you
Perfect.
deals. Yeah.
I love it.
See, we
Yay.
do
Yeah.
all that too.
Yeah. Yeah.
All
Awesome.
right.
Lori
Anything
just needs to
else?
move here. Where are you today, Lori? She's muted.
We'll see if we-
I'm actually in Minnesota today. I'll
Dang
be
it,
down
girl.
in a few days.
Yeah.
Well, nice and cool.
I was just gonna say, what's the weather like there?
It's a little steamy here this week. It's in the 80s and humid.
Oh, humid.
I freaking love our 100-degree. I came back from Montana and sat outside twice. I was like, oh, yes.